5 minutes. 300 heart-hammering seconds. That was the length of the leash the Terran Defense Directorate had given Lieutenant Kira Holt and her Chrononaut Marines, and it was the only reason humanity still had a say in the battle for the Matic Expanse. At time index 00:00, the sky outside the forward viewport of the carrier Indomitable burned with enemy thrusters. 9 Caligari war dreadnoughts advanced in a crescent, flanked by a mist of smaller escorts, 206 hostile hulls in all. Their vector would put them over New Alexandria Station in exactly 6 minutes. Every simulation run by Naval Command said the Terran fleet would break in 4. The Chrononaut detachment, 30 Marines hidden below the flight deck, were the single, unmodeled variable. They wore graphite Thi combat hardsuits, bristling with C-link nodes, every node a gyroscopic spindle that made the impossible routine. Temporal recursion, limited to a sliding window of 5 minutes. Synaptic state was copied, compressed, and pulse lasered into quantum-locked storage. When the loop collapsed, the universe politely snapped back to the time of recording, while the data packet came screaming down a dedicated neurooptic line, straight into a living brain. Only the Chrononauts remembered. The rest of reality breathed a sigh of relief and started again, oblivious. "Loop point set," Tech Sergeant Ibarra announced. She pressed her glove over the ruby core of the anchor node. All 30 biomonitors flashed green. On the overhead speaker, Commodore Havelock's voice rattled the deck plates. "Enemy salvo in 30 seconds. Marine detachment. You may begin temporal operations at discretion. Godspeed." Kira raised 2 fingers. "First round. Remember the brief. Find the keystone, map point defenses. Survive to T+5 so the recorder captures everything. After reset, we plan the kill stroke. Go." 0:30. The Indomitable's launch catapults hurled the platoon's boarding torpedoes into the metallic night. Kira's pod, a narrow coffin of alloy and gel foam, shrieked through layers of defensive fire. 2 escorts, spider-thin Sicarian cutters, spotted them instantly. Iron lances slashed past the canopy. Someone far off sang a hymn, someone else vomited. Then the torpedo punched through a corvette's belly plating, came to rest in a crawl space choked with coolant vapor, and split open like an overripe seed pod, Marines pouring out. Kira's HUD drew a crimson route to the primary reactor. She and Corporal Izumi dashed between conduits. They killed 3 Caligari technicians with suppressed flechette bursts, planted a micro-antimatter charge on the regulator manifold, and vaulted back toward their breach point. 3:17, ship time. The corvette's AI activated internal scorch grids. Sweeps of star-hot plasma carved entire hallways into slag. Izumi's vitals spiked, weird angles, arterial red. Kira dragged him, suit servos groaning, reached the rendezvous hatch, and the world inverted. A sound like reality exhaling ripped through her mind. Her wrist chrono ticked back to 00:00. She was again in Indomitable's staging bay, knees bent, rifle maglocked across her chest, smoke from coolant vents drifting unburned in the still air. Izumi stood 2 meters away, uninjured, blinking attunement fog from his eyes. "First pass logged," Ibarra said quietly. "Probability of decisive victory now reading 0.6%, up from 0.03. The platoon hissed approval. Going from statistical flatline to tangible odds in 5 minutes felt like conjuring miracles from vacuum. They had 62 minutes subjective downtime, within no time an agreed-upon planning recess, before they would roll the dice again. Kiera projected the recording onto the compartment bulkhead. 40 Marines watched in silence as they relived their own deaths at half speed. Coronal loops of plasma consumed Izumi's suit. A cutter disintegrated Sergeant Vale with a railgun point blank. Bodies became notation in a tactical ledger. "Pattern analysis," Kira said. "How long from first hull breach until the scorch grid lights?" "Exactly 1:13, Ibarra answered. "Hard timer. We skirt that window next pass." Primary sneak still the same. "I want Izumi. Veil me inside that Corvette, but we exit at 50 seconds. Charge stays." Detonation plus internal munitions equals sympathetic pop that'll blind their flag's targeting radars. Then what? Someone asked. Then we reset again if we have to. Objective is not individual heroics. Objective is full Armada kill. We keep grinding the odds upward until the model says they can't win. She let that hang. It was doctrine every Chrononaut knew, but it never hurt to say the words aloud. Your deaths do matter, but only mathematically. Second loop. They inserted earlier, flipped off from Indomitable as soon as the Caligari broke warp. During their sprint to the reactor, Kira scraped the interior network, copying cipher keys. Azumi set the bomb. They exfiltrated at 49 seconds, 4:38. The Corvette's keel bent outward, dividing into fractal shrapnel. The fireball licked across a dreadnought's dorsal shields. At 4:55, a chunk of reactor casing, massing 40 tons and traveling at 6 kilometers per second, punched through the dreadnought's bridge. Enemy flagship comms stuttered. 5:00 struck. Reality warped. Back in the bay, the platoon howled triumph. Ibarra pumped a fist. Probability now 12%. 12 isn't 100, Kira reminded them, though her grin hurt her cheeks. Next keystone is their comms cruiser, Dawn Meridian, that, and they coordinate by laser blink only. The loops blurred together. Third pass, locate Meridian's hidden data links. Fourth, hack return path authentication and feed false targeting data to 3 cruisers, convincing them to backthrust into each other. Fifth, steal telemetry on the dreadnought shields. With every pass, the tactical AI on Indomitable recomputed the war's shape. 20%, 34, 46. Each reset rewound physical damage but not knowledge, their edges sharpened, while the enemy stayed blissfully nave. At loop 11, Kia realized she was forgetting what unloop time felt like. Memory sets piled like sediment. She dreamed of plasma washes, of Azumi's blood arcing in 0G, of the smell of ozone that vanished on reset, yet clung to her nostrils. 30 deaths, 40, more. Some were hers. Dying, she discovered, was less frightening the 7th or 8th time. Waking again was worse, because it meant inventing a new way to die. After loop 19, subjective day 3, they plateaued at 87%. The enemy AI learned faster than human admirals had predicted. Each time a final plan approached, a fresh contingency sprouted out of inscrutable alien logic and handed the Chrononauts an unexpected checkmate. They had forced the battle into a corner and could not quite snap the lock. Commodore Havelock called Kira to the flag bridge, a room that, from his perspective, none of this had happened in. She stood, still livid with adrenaline, before a viewport showing a serene star field. "I've reread your loop logs," Havelock said. "You've done more in 2 subjective days than the fleet could in 2 months. Still, I am bound to ask, are we wasting temporal potential? Should we call in Directorate Section 9, requisition a 10-minute anchor instead of 5? Kira shook her head. 10-minute windows risk decoherence. At 5, we keep memory shear below the Kessler threshold. Any larger and you'll lose half my team to neural overheating. We can finish this. We only need the keystone we're missing. What is it? That's the problem, sir. We haven't seen it yet. The logs told a consistent story. Every time the Caligari win, a surge of processing speed radiates across their network, precisely at T plus 245. Anti-missile turrets track faster. Torpedo guidance grows perfect. Formation shifts occur with dance-like symmetry. Something some hidden leveraging brain awakens at that moment each loop. We think there's a deep well PAPU somewhere we haven't tagged, Kira said. Could be smaller than a shuttle. Could be parked a half AU back and just projecting quantum entanglement orders. So you need a scouting pass, Havelock concluded. I need a sacrificial recon pass. The Commodore's jaw clenched. Do it. Loop 20. 010. Instead of prepping torpedoes, Kira ordered her team to stay aboard Indomitable. She alone exited in an exosuit slung under a stealth shell. Ejected by magnetic rail, she sailed perpendicular to both fleets. At 1:02, she cut engines and coasted in total darkness. Suit radiators shuttered down to pinpoints. Passive sensors hunted for anomalous boson chatter, the spectral fingerprint of entangled comm bursts. 2:46. A spike. 20 million kilometers rimward, a pinprick node lit the spectrum like a match. The Caligari Keystone, a command processor inside a crystalline bubble, smaller than a lifeboat. Kiera triggered an encrypted visor note. Keystone located, bearing Delta 92, range 20 mega. The message truncated. A patrol frigate spotlight cut through the dark, pegging her silhouette. Rail slugs hammered her torso. The suit autofused arteries, but oxygen flowered out her shredded lungs. She gagged on her own blood, made sure her recorder was still sinking, and waited for the slug that would finish her. She felt it. Then the beloved wrench, reset. Back in safety, she collapsed to a knee, retching though. The memory of pain was already half-smoothed by Neurosponge. Abara steadied her. Coordinates uplinked. Abara confirmed. Probability 92. Keystone Comp identified. Caligari Theta Mind. Remote. Good. Kiera swallowed bile. Now we kill it. Her voice cracked on kill. 50 loops of violence would do that. A pure strike wasn't possible. The node was too distant for shipboard weapons inside the window. They would need a relativistic Drone 1 that could burn in less than 5 minutes. Izumi sketched math across open air with his gauntlet. A micro-rapier with antimatter core, launched at 0.970 C. Need 2/8 seconds to spool the coal gun, 3:0 to time on target. That's doable if we cannibalize Indomitable's spinal rail. Downside, the ship loses half her broadside. Worth the gamble. Kira looked around. The Marines nodded, some wild-eyed, some exhausted. They spent the pause welding feed rails onto cargo drones, packing magneto bottles with stolen anti-helium. Kira set the loop embark point this time on the ordnance deck, so the first second of existence would find her already slapping the launch key. Loop 21, the second clock in the rapier screamed out, a needle of tungsten shedding blue lamplight. 0:03 and 17 seconds. Caligari sensors noted a gravitational ripple and pivoted missile banks, but their half-light second of reaction margin was eaten by relativity. 0:04:91. The antimatter bottle shattered against Theta Mind. A star bloomed on no one's horizon. Entangled comms died mid-packet. Indomitable's bridge crew, oblivious to the choreographies that had led here, roared as enemy formations faltered, weaving drunkenly without their ghost captain. Probability jumped to 98%. The Chrononauts cheered, but Kira found the number haunting. "We're missing 2%, she said. "Something can still break." She spent the loop breath watching the enemy shift. The dreadnoughts, even confused, still outgunned Terran battlecruisers 3-1. Remove the right piece, force one lucky salvo, and the timeline could still fork away from victory. They needed inevitability. "What's the most irreversible move we can make?" she asked her people. Sergeant Vale, helmet tucked under one arm, offered a grim smile. "Crash their own ships into each other. No way for probability ghosts to wiggle out." Abara snapped her fingers. "Their fusion disks run on mirror matter. If we remote flip shield phases, 2 dreadnought cores touching would generate a particle fountain bright enough to gut half the escorts. How do we get them to collide? Paint a fake gravity well between them." Kira's mind leapt. "No. We give them an authentic gravity well." The plan hatched, horrifying in its boldness. Trigger a micro-singularity inside the debris of the already destroyed Keystone. Its gravitational spike would yank the nearest dreadnought pair into an unstoppable embrace. The resulting chain detonation, modeled on the chronosim, drove projected win odds to 100. Only one catch. Someone had to ride the singularity seed in. Autonomous delivery systems were banned by treaty. Every drive had a man-in-the-loop interlock. Kira could wire around it, but the Directorate Ethics demon embedded in her suit would stop her memory transfer cold and strand the team in paradox. "I'll pilot," she said. Izumi protested. "We can randomize DNA keys, trick the demon, no time, and I recorded the site once already." Theta Mind's last flash burned its location into my retina and the vector. She felt, rather than saw, their reluctance. In linear wars, commanders survived by distance. In loop wars, leaders survived by probability. But survival was still never guaranteed, and the only currency that bought certainty was personal risk. Kira set anchor number 22. She climbed into a recon courier the size of a closet. Abra linked the singularity package to her neural trigger, a 1 microgram pellet of collapsed nucleonic foam. Detonate, and gravity itself would slam outward like a dropped mallet. 0:00. She launched. The courier sprinted through the charred cloud of antimatter residue. At 1:40, she was 10,000 kilometers from the target grid. Enemy radar, still half-blind, drizzled search beams past her hull. 2:32. Lock. Rails incoming. Swarm shells chipped ablative panels. Hull pressure fell under her seat. A leak sang high and thin. 3:11. Sensors reported optimum insertion path for the pellet. She breathed asthmatic air, keyed the final command. 3:15. The courier vented the pellet, a speck glittering like a grain of black diamond. She armed it on a 2-second fuse. 3:17. A rail slug ripped through the cockpit. Cabin exploded in white, her suit visor frosted inside with boiling blood, yet in that instant she saw the pellet ignite. Space folded, not in, but down, length contracting around a newborn well. 3:18. Her heart stopped, suit masers overloaded, but she felt the recorder bite down on her last frame of perception. Data safe, memory safe, nothing. Reset. She gasped back to life aboard Indomitable, hands clenched so hard her nails broke. Abera's scream of delight hit first. 100! We did it! On the bridge, across the ship, across the fleet, reality flowed uninterrupted toward the 5-minute mark, but the simulation engine riding under Command's table now displayed a flat horizon of certainty. From the moment Kira armed the pellet, every strategic future ended in Terran triumph. They could, if they chose, cease looping right there, allow the timeline to roll forward naturally, claim the win that statistics promised. Protocol left the choice to the ranking Chrononaut. Kira steadied herself, raised trembling fingers, and unlocked the anchor node. "Release," she ordered. A shudder passed through her skull as the recursion dampers powered down. For the first time in days, arrow of time and arrow of life lined up again. She felt the deck hum with real seconds. On the view screen, 19 Caligari escorts flared, vaporized by the gravitational burst's tidal shear. 2 dreadnoughts, trapped in the well, wrenched forward, collided, and became a white-hot cruciform star. Shockwaves peeled armor off their neighbors. Fusion disks flashed to overdrive and blew. An armada unraveled like a string cut in midstream. Terran cruisers raked survivors. Gun batteries that once seemed pea-shooters became executioner pistols, finishing crippled hulks, drifting without commander or computation. 17 minutes later, the Matic expanse fell quiet. Indomitable's medical bay overflowed with the physically wounded. The Chrononaut barracks, though none had been harmed in this final timeline, was deathly silent all the same. Every Marine there carried intimate memory of his or her demise in dozens of different flavors. Havelock visited them at 0300 ship time. He found Kira alone, seated on a supply crate, helmet in her lap. She kept tapping the rim as though unsure it was solid. "Lieutenant," he began, "I won't pretend to understand the shape of what you did, but I know it saved us." She nodded, eyes red. "Did you know, sir, we died 458 times. That's the counter in my HUD log. History will record 0. That's the trick of it." She forced a small laugh. "No graves, no folded flags, just a data trail rendered classified." Havelock placed a metal box beside her. All the same, some recognition belongs in the here and now. She opened it. Inside lay a silver disc embossed with a Mobius loop, the Terran cross of recurrence. Very few existed. Thank you, Commodore. You should rest. Directorate, Psych, officers, want full scans. I will, tomorrow. After he left, Kira walked to the viewport. Wreckage glittered beyond the glass, the final iteration of so many aborted tragedies. She pressed her palm against cold polyserum and tried to remember the precise sensation of loop back, the way the universe snapped shut around your soul like a book suddenly closed mid-sentence. The memory slid away, edges dulled by protective enzymes. Someday, she knew, even the emotional echoes would fade. But not yet. Not tonight. Behind her, the Chrononaut platoon slept uneasily, some murmuring to ghosts, others twitching at phantom bullets. Their victory, a perfect one mathematically speaking, had cost them something, less easily enumerated. Yet the skies over New Alexandria were safe, and sunrise would come to a world that never realized how close 5 minutes could cut. Kira let the silent stars soothe the tremor in her chest. Then she whispered to the darkness, part prayer, part promise. Loop closed. And, for the first time since the battle began, time kept going.